Spring has begun, but winter isn't done. Who faces the latest blizzard threat and other severe storms across the country?
It's a shame. It's a shame what's happening to our country. This is election interference.
Donald Trump back in a New York court today. His new trial date mixed with a massive victory as the deadline for posting bond passes. And a terror attack in Russia putting U.S. officials on high alert. The new warning following the attacks in Moscow. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. We're glad you're with us on this Monday. Right now, a line of severe storms making their way across middle America from Monroe, Louisiana, all the way north to Chicago, Illinois. This threat is bringing heavy rain and high winds up to 60 miles an hour. There is potential for large hail and tornadoes in the Gulf Coast states. Behind this line of storms is a spring blizzard impacting the northern and central plains that will continue through tomorrow. Many schools in Colorado were closed today as feels-like temps hit single digits in the northeast part of the state. On top of the more snow that accumulated, the Denver area already has as much as 1.5 feet of snow. With more snow likely throughout the week, the National Weather Service forecasts snow, gusty winds, sleet, and freezing rain will move across the Central Plains through parts of the upper Midwest. Nebraska, the Dakotas, and Minnesota could see additional double-digit snowfall by Thursday morning. Power outages and tree damage likely in some regions with travel disruptions, of course. In the upper Northeast, tens of thousands of people are still without power. Look at these numbers right here. After a winter storm passed through this weekend in Maine, according to poweroutage.com.us, more than 50,000 residents are waiting to get their power back. New Hampshire residents, they're also recovering from the weekend with more than 10,000 customers without power. New tonight, Donald Trump's hush money trial will begin with jury selection on April 15th. The former president attended the scheduling hearing in Manhattan today, where the judge overseeing the case was not persuaded by Trump's legal argument of prosecutorial conduct over a large document dump. Prosecutors say only a small portion of the documents are relevant to the case. Trump is accused of paying to cover up an extramarital affair ahead of the 2016 election. Trump says he's not guilty and plans to appeal. But Trump did secure a monumental victory today as an appellate court blocked the full payment of the $454 million bond owed by Trump that was due today. The National Desk, Janae Bowens, has more on this decision.
Former President Donald Trump is celebrating a lower bond and an extension in his civil business fraud case.
I thank the appellate division for acting quickly, but Judge Engoron is a disgrace to this country, and this should not be allowed to happen.
Trump owed nearly $500 million, but he received a reprieve from a New York appeals court and now has 10 days to post $175 million.
And I'll post either $175 million in cash or bonds or security or whatever is necessary very quickly within the 10 days.
It's a compromise. For the Trump legal team, I think they will view this as a victory.
It's less of a concern for now, but failure to pay up could result in some serious consequences.
We will ask the judge to seize his assets.
However, seizing Trump's assets is a move political experts say would help Trump.
You're going to create the greatest victimhood of 2024, and you're going to elect Donald Trump.
I think there would have been serious questions in the public's mind about the fairness of that.
Trump faces several criminal cases. Even still, 538's polling average shows Trump's approval rating is higher than President Joe Biden's.
Former President Trump has been very good at using all of these cases to his political benefit.
This is a witch hunt. It's a hoax.
He's always on the courthouse steps. He's always responding to these cases. He's used it very effectively to rally his supporters.
Now, meanwhile, a judge said Monday that Trump's first criminal trial over hush money paid to porn actress Stormy Daniels will start on April 15th. Dee, Trump says having a trial before November is election interference.
Janae, how is President Biden responding to Trump's legal affairs?
Yeah, so the Biden-Harris campaign released a statement criticizing Trump and accused him of lying about how much money he has. Now, they also claim he pushes moderate and suburban voters away with his, quote, dangerous agenda.
And what are voters saying?
Right. So remember, he was supposed to pay nearly $500 million. Now, that's before a New York appeals court stepped in. The Harvard's Caps Harris poll found that 52% of voters believe Trump should have to post the bond to appeal the ruling, while 48% said he should be allowed to appeal with posting a smaller bond. Of course, he now has 10 days to pay a much smaller amount, $175 million. Didi.
Live from Washington, D.C., Janae Bowens, thank you. The UN Security Council is calling for an immediate ceasefire by both Israel and Hamas in their ongoing war that started October 7th. In a 14-0 vote, the council demands a halt to fighting in Gaza for the rest of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan that ends on April 9th. The U.S. abstained from voting, but also did not use its veto to block the resolution. The Israeli prime minister rebuking the U.S. for not insisting that the release of hostages be tied to any cessation of war, as they did in the failed UN vote on Friday. In response to today's vote, Israel canceled a scheduled trip of two top advisors to D.C. John Kirby calling this decision disappointing.
Number one, it's a non-binding resolution, so there's no impact at all on Israel and Israel's ability to continue to go after Hamas. Number two, as I said in my opening statement, it does not represent a change at all in our policy.
And for their part, Israel stated this afternoon they will not stop fighting and will continue until they destroy Hamas and all detainees are returned. It's unclear what will happen to Israel for not abiding by today's vote. Hamas has twice ignored Security Council decrees to release hostages without any repercussions. Meantime, hostage negotiations continue as more than 100 Israelis abducted on October 7th remain in Gaza. Over the weekend, Israel again indicated they would accept to terms that would release roughly 700 prisoners, with more than 100 of whom are serving life sentences for killing Israelis in exchange for just 40 of the hostages. Hamas has yet to agree to this deal. U.S. Ambassador to the UN today saying it wasn't Israel who was opposed to peace.
We're getting closer to a deal for an immediate ceasefire with the release of all hostages, but we're not there yet. Now let's be clear. A ceasefire could have come about months ago if Hamas had been willing to release hostages. Months ago. Instead, Hamas continues to stand in the way of peace.
Florida's governor has signed into law one of the country's most restrictive social media bans for minors. Under the law, any child under the age of 14 is barred from creating any social media account. 15 and 16-year-olds in Florida can get social media accounts, but only with parental consent. The bill, set to go into effect on January 1st, is expected to face legal challenges from the tech industry. But Governor DeSantis says the bill gives parents a greater ability to protect their kids.
Now, with things like social media and all this, you can have a kid in the house, safe seemingly, and then you have predators that can get right in there into your own home. You could be doing everything right, but they know how to get and manipulate these different platforms.
In Columbus, Ohio, Pammy May, the legal guardian of the 5-year-old boy she is accused of killing, Darnell Taylor, was in court today but did not enter a plea. While her attorneys say she is competent to stand trial, the judge ordered a mental evaluation to be performed. The next court date is scheduled for April 25th. The CEO of Boeing is stepping down after recent backlash against the company. Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun says he's leaving the company by the end of this year. The company's chairman also says he is not planning to stand for re-election. The CEO of Boeing's commercial airplanes unit is also retiring. This announcement comes just 2 months after a door plug blew off the side of a 737 MAX 9 plane during an Alaska Airlines flight. Now, this news comes as we are learning more about a new letter the FBI Seattle division sent to passengers on that Alaska Airlines flight back in January. The National Desk, Paul Rivera, spoke to one of the attorneys who has sued Alaska and Boeing over that incident. He says a move like this is extraordinary. He says this is something that is unusual, but Alaska Airlines is giving a different assessment.
In what's a new chapter of Alaska Flight 1282, where the door plug on a Boeing plane blew out while in the air, the FBI Seattle division has sent those passengers a letter. It says, "We have identified you as a possible victim of a crime." Is it unusual for a letter like this to be sent out?
This is extraordinary for the DOJ and the FBI to be issuing this letter.
Attorney Mark Lindquist said the 27 passengers he represents in a lawsuit against Boeing and Alaska Airlines received the notice.
This letter is the result of cumulative errors by Boeing, cumulative negligence. The DOJ's just lost their patience, it seems.
While the embattled company is not named in the FBI's letter, Lindquist says
everyone's drawing the inference that the target is Boeing.
Alaska Airlines tells Como, in an event like this, it's normal for the DOJ to be conducting an investigation. We are fully cooperating and do not believe we are a target of the investigation. Boeing simply said they weren't commenting. Lindquist says the DOJ is working to see if there's grounds for new criminal charges.
The door plug blew out at 16,000 feet. There were a variety of injuries. Had this happened at cruising altitude, you likely would have seen people sucked out of that hole. The pilot may have gone unconscious due to hypoxia. The plane may have gone down.
And in this case, the attorney welcomes a federal investigation.
We want accountability, we want answers, and we want safer planes from Boeing.
The U.S. Supreme Court will take up an abortion pill safety case tomorrow. The case could impact how women get access to the medication mifepristone. The dispute revolves around whether the FDA missed significant safety issues when granting the drug easier access. In legal briefs filed with the court, medical professionals say the bill is among the safest medications, while the plaintiffs in the case say the medication is the cause of tens of thousands of emergency complications. Coming up next here, more details coming out of Russia about the horrific terror attack on Friday, what it means for national security back here in the United States. And his side of the story, Shohei Ohtani addressing the press about the biggest scandal in baseball right now, but there is something he didn't do. And then it's the biggest overhaul for military justice in 70 years, but does it go far enough? Find out right after this. Three more individuals, two brothers and their father, have been identified by Russian officials as taking part of the ISIS-K terror attack on Friday at the Crocus City Hall. This brings the total to 7 people charged so far. At least 139 people were killed, many more injured. 4 suspects are in custody, three of whom have pled guilty to all charges. And all of this is raising alarm bells back here in the United States.
In the aftermath of Friday's ISIS terrorist attack in Russia that left more than 130 people dead, there's growing concern over terrorists making their way into the United States.
It only took 4 people to do what they did in Moscow. We've had 9 million something people that have entered this country unlawfully and illegally. It only takes 4 to do this kind of carnage.
In fiscal years 2022 and 2023, U.S. Border Patrol apprehended more than 2 million migrants at the southern border. Border Patrol Chief Jason Owens says people from at least 160 countries have come across this fiscal year alone.
What's keeping me up at night is the 140,000 known gotaways. Border security is a big piece of national security. And if we don't know who is coming into our country and we don't know what their intent is, that is a threat. And they're exploiting a vulnerability that's on our border right now.
Last month, there were nearly 190,000 encounters at the southern border and more than 1 million so far in fiscal year 2024. Border concerns also coming from U.S. intelligence agencies. During a Senate Intelligence Committee hearing this month, FBI Director Christopher Wray warned of a human smuggling network with ties to ISIS and said that threats from several groups have now reached a whole other level.
There is a particular network that has where some of the overseas facilitators of the smuggling network have ISIS ties that we're very concerned about and that we've been spending an enormous amount of effort with our partners investigating.
And this just in, baseball superstar Shohei Ohtani addressed the media for the first time today since his interpreter was fired by the Los Angeles Dodgers. He said he never bet on sports and was duped by his former interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara. He also said Mizuhara told lies in his interview last week. He read from a prepared statement but did not take any questions. Interpreter Mizuhara was fired by the Dodgers after Ohtani's attorneys say the baseball star was the victim of massive theft. Mizuhara has been accused of illegal gambling. Sports gambling, by the way, is illegal in California. The gambling operation is under federal investigation as well as by Major League Baseball. New information, the Biden administration announced they are spending $6 billion in an effort to cut emissions from heavy industries, including cement, steel, and aluminum. More than 30 factories in 20 states will take steps to cut about 14 million metric tons of carbon dioxide annually. The administration claims this is the equivalent of taking 3.3 million cars off the road in a year. Hyundai and Kia have recalled more than 147,000 electric vehicles over damaged charging units. Federal safety regulators, they say the integrated charging control unit may become damaged and stop charging, which of course can result in a loss of drive power. This in turn could increase the risk of crash. Kia's impacted vehicles include certain EV6 cars with model years between 2022 and 2024. Hyundai's recall includes certain Ioniq 5 vehicles with model years between 2022 and 2024. The agency says dealerships will replace the charging units for free. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America.
Ever since then, we've been keeping our front door bolted all the time, even during the day when we're up.
Neighbors in the Olympic Hills and Lake City neighborhoods have been on edge ever since multiple homes were hit by a group of armed robbers, holding victims hostage in the middle of the night.
I just felt terrible.
Victoria Stiles' neighbors were held at gunpoint in their home for 45 minutes. And according to court documents, the suspects forced the victims to log into their bank portals and provide access to the suspects, allowing them to view their limits or balances, then threatened to come back if the victims canceled any accounts or locked their electronics. Police arrested 3 suspects, linking them to the case through surveillance video and purchases they made with the victims' credit cards and accounts, racking up hundreds of dollars through Best Buy, DoorDash, and video games.
This is a picture of Michaela Lucky, her body cut up by someone, then thrown into the wooded hillside in North Fairmount. Investigators spent months trying to identify her.
She went by Kayla, or Bubbles was a nickname. Anybody that is familiar with her, has seen her, when now seeing this picture and having the identity, that's just helpful.
Lucky was ID'd after a woman saw a Facebook post about the search for clues and called police to say,
this might be her sister. And there were some Facebook pictures that we thought could possibly match with stature and so forth.
With a name, they searched the BCI database. Lucky's been a victim of a crime, so her DNA was in the system.
2 men killed at Portland's waterfront within a week and another badly beaten. Police say these incidents are isolated, but they are increasing patrols in the area. Here's video of PPB's bike squad patrolling the East Bank Esplanade Thursday night.
We want people to feel safe. We don't want any of these things to happen.
Violence that's unfortunately become a trend in the area. On March 15th, a 38-year-old man was stabbed to death on the Steel Bridge. Police named a suspect, but he was released by the district attorney's office for insufficient evidence. Police say they're now continuing to gather additional evidence to pursue charges. And on March 12th, a 73-year-old fisherman was brutally attacked at the Duckworth Dock on the East Bank Esplanade. Police have not arrested a suspect in that case.
It does make me think twice about coming to a regular area that I'm used to.
Coming up next, proper justice for the victims of sexual assault inside our military. Will the new guidelines meet the needs of those who have been wronged? The U.S. military is changing how it handles cases of sexual assault. It's being called the biggest overhaul to the military justice system since 1950. Spotlight on America has been reporting on this issue for years, with survivors saying the former system was biased against them. Now, as Atra El-Nishar reports, it remains to be seen whether the new system will ensure justice.
I think the biggest betrayal and assault is not actually by the perpetrator, it was by the military.
Erin Scanlon's accused rapist was part of an elite military unit. She filed criminal charges with police, but the military took over the case and later found him not guilty.
There's no accountability.
Sasha Georgettis reported a sexual assault to her Navy boss.
His response to me was, "He's a really good sailor. Do you want to ruin his career?"
Her alleged attacker was never even disciplined. Through years of reporting, Spotlight on America has spoken with service members who say they were victimized not only by the person who sexually assaulted them, but an institution they trusted. By design, throughout history, sexual assault cases were handled in-house by military bosses. It's something Josh Connolly, Senior Vice President of Protect Our Defenders, has been fighting against for years.
It's like having a CEO of a company decide the legal path a sexual assault or harassment takes of two employees. That sounds absurd, but that's literally what's been happening in our military.
He says the system made it impossible for many survivors to get justice.
That makes me wonder if that mindset, that culture, enabled perpetrators to feel that they could get away with sexual assault.
100%. The predatory behavior, the criminal behavior was reinforced by the chain of command.
Now, a monumental shift in the landscape is meant to change that. Last summer, the Biden administration signed an executive order transferring authority in sexual assault cases to independent military prosecutors. The Pentagon says 160 are already on the job, with plans to get closer to 200 in the next year and a half. It's being called the most significant transformation of the military justice system since 1950.
You shouldn't be treated differently as a victim or a perpetrator if you're in the military or if you're in the civilian context.
In December, the Army's choice to be the top independent prosecutor, Warren Wells, was removed from the post after a 10-year-old email surfaced that appeared to doubt victims' accounts, referencing false allegations and sobriety regret.
We have a good policy that we fight for, and then the military puts in place the exact wrong person.
And critics say calls into question whether the new prosecutors have been properly vetted. For Connolly, the success of the system remains to be seen, with justice and national security hanging in the balance.
And then once people are in the military, if they're subject to harassment and assault, obviously they're not going to want to stay. And of course they leave, which does a disservice to our military, but also our national security.
So how do we know that this will actually work?
We want the appropriate cases to come forward, which will hopefully result in more convictions.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
Those huge lottery jackpots are still growing and up for grabs. Both the Powerball and Mega Millions jackpots combined come to $1.9 billion. Tonight's Powerball drawing is an estimated $800 million with a cash value of $384.8 million. Tomorrow night's Mega Millions drawing is up to $1.1 billion. Someone could walk away with a cash option of $525.8 million. Players must match all 6 winning numbers for each game. Good luck. And we invite you to join us again this evening for more coverage on America's top stories. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.